Lots of people talk about chasing their dreams, but how many actually do it? Welcome to the Pursue Your Passion podcast with Tyler Kammerman. We're going to introduce you to people who are intentionally pursuing their passion every day. Through their stories of success and their struggles, you'll gain insight into how to better begin or continue your journey. Now here's Tyler with today's guest.
What's up, Passion Pursuers? Your host, Tyler Kammerman, with you as always. Hey, I'm excited. I think every time I jump on this show, I'm excited. I think I say that at the beginning of every episode, actually. I'm excited about my guest today, but I'm super excited to be sitting across the table from my good friend, Brandon McNace. Brandon, welcome to the show.
How's it going? Man, you look good every time. For those of you that haven't met him, he's a good looking guy. Man, you look good.
and that's the way that this interview is going to go,
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I do have a bio for Brandon. Brandon is an international evangelist who is passionately focused to see people set free and become all that they were designed to be. He's the founder of a nonprofit that does amazing work in the Middle East. Last year, they freed over 300 people from slavery. Yeah. That I didn't stutter there. This organization freed 300 people from slavery. They gave out 200,000 meals, ran a slave school, started a church, and preached to over 18,000 people in 2 crusades. He's committed to using ministry as a conduit of God's resources to bring light to the darkest places on earth.
Wow, that sounds good.
It does. It's like, I wonder if that was like professionally written or how that happened.
Thank your whole team of 30 staff that prepared that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Brandon, welcome. It's good to see you as always, man.
Yeah.
So I just gave a brief introduction of what you're doing. And my first question always on this show is, tell us about the passion or passions that you're intentionally pursuing right now. So I hit some of the highlights on that, but tell us about what your organization is doing and what's got you fired up.
If I can be honest too, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Awesome. Perfect.
Everybody's like, man, how did you do this? I have no clue. So, this whole thing, and we'll get into the story later. It kind of just happened, right? And I know a lot of people are saying, well, I've wanted to do this my whole life. That was not the case. And you know me. So I wanted to make a bunch of money. I wanted to be in the business world, do real estate and all that type of stuff. Well, God kind of wrecked my heart, and not kind of, he did. And I started caring more for people versus myself. So I'm being so selfish. I still am a little bit. You can talk to my wife. But it began this process of me trying to figure out, God gives all of us amazing gifts, and he gives us all of these talents and things that we can use. And for a lot of years of my life, I was using them incorrectly or in the wrong way, which made me good in certain areas. And we have those similarities, but the thing that started happening is the closer I got to what I would say would be his heartbeat for my life, the closer I got, my heartbeat started to increase. And it started this kind of, I just preached a sermon last night called The Great Exchange, where we exchange things from our heart, mind, and soul for things that he wants for us.
Sure.
That started to happen. And so I started to preach overseas, and through kind of a crazy set of events, a random person reached out to me from Pakistan, jump on a plane, and I go over there and I see into areas of the world, and I listen to Joe Rogan or I listen to whatever, and they'll, we saw this in the Congo or what. But I saw it firsthand.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, I don't know the specific number. It's like 30 to 50 million slaves in the world or something like that. But there's 4.5 million Christian slaves in just Pakistan.
That's incredible.
And so you go over there and you see them, you hear the stories, and it's the most disgusting things you can think of, right? And God just wrecked my heart for these people. And so our organization kind of began out of that, and had to have an amazing team over there. And the heartbeat, and I'll let you kind of go after this, but the heartbeat of our organization will always be setting people free. Yeah. That's the foundation. No matter what we do, no matter how much money comes in or doesn't come in, that portion will always remain the foundation. So we don't deviate from that. We'll do other things on top of that, but that always has to be our foundation, where you should not have to live under the rule of someone else and be owned as property.
Right.
That's the foundation. Now, apart from that, we have a slave school. We worked out agreements with slave owners. We teach right now, it's like 167 kids every day. Because if you can't read and you can't write, good luck trying to get out of slavery anyways.
Right.
We just started our first church. We have like 500 and something people that meet every week. Once the school is finished, that number will be about 2,000 every week that meets. We've done just 200,000 meals last year. We've done all of these amazing things, and we're just getting started. Like, that's the craziest. These people reach out to me like, I want to do what you do. Like, how did you do this? Or what was like, and I listen to all the, I've, one of the guys on my board is John Maxwell guy, chief of staff for John Maxwell Company. So you want to talk about business acumen, you want to talk about leadership, all that stuff. People are like, what's the leadership values? And I'm sitting there going, I don't really know how I'm doing this. Like, if I'm being honest, other than a little bit of obedience on my side, and I know who God is, and I have faith in what he can do. Other than that, I don't really know. So it's just a crazy thing to try to, people don't believe it until they see the videos. What, you went over there by yourself? Yeah. With who? No, just me. With what organization? Just me. What? Like, it's one of those, literally the first night I was there, I was literally in a minivan with a bunch of people I don't know, carrying AK-47s, driving out into the middle of nowhere. And I'm sitting here going, what the heck am I doing? And I'm like, and all of a sudden we show up, and it's almost like a Western, when they have the two rows of like the businesses with like a little road in the middle. Yep. We are literally in the middle of nowhere. There's no lights, there's no anything. And there's a little tiny table in the middle of this little thing, almost like an old school Western type of look. And I'm like, where are we at? And they're like, well, this is where we're going to do the first slave deal. And it was like a little tumbleweed. But it's like, and I'm sitting here going, what the heck is happening?
Yeah.
And then it just started snowballing. And, as of this week, the number will be 320. As of next week, it'll be 346. It's just growing. So I could talk for 20 hours about the stuff that we're doing.
No, it's amazing. Yeah. I love that. Two things that you said that I want to just follow a little bit more. So the school.
Yeah.
They're slaves. Yeah. So are the slave owners giving them time off from being a slave to go to school?
This is crazy. And I don't even know so our team over there, how they negotiated this. But typically, so they're a slave, so they only make the owner money when they're working, right? And they basically, so for those who are listening, they make bricks. So like the story of Exodus in the Bible, that's this. Yeah. That's why we call the organization Exodus 5:1. It's the first time that Moses says, let my people go. So these people literally make bricks all the time. And I don't know how we have favor to get into these rooms, into these things. I preach at at these brick kilns. So some of them will allow us to come in. They're still their property. And other people, there's a spectrum, like with anything. There's roughly, I think the estimate is 20,000 brick kilns across Pakistan. Every single building, everything is made out of these bricks, right? So it's a large industry.
Yep.
And not all of them are slaves that make bricks, right? And the spectrum is really large from what I've seen on slave owners. Some of them are very brutal. Some of them, in fact, burn their people alive. They take metal rods. One family that we set free, to set an example, they took metal rods. The dad was beaten. All of the bones in his legs are broken. They rape their children. You name it, they do it, and they get away with it, right? But then on the other hand, there's certain ones that, like the first person I met that last time, it was his dad that was the slave owner. His dad sent him to meet with me to do this deal. But he said, can I shake your hand? And my team over there said, he's not like his dad. So there are certain people that just like kings of old.
Yeah.
You're my property, but I'll treat you a little bit better. Yeah. Or pharaohs of old, right? Certain people are better than others. And we've, basically once the school gets finished, we're going to, at that school, we'll have roughly enough room, and we'll have the agreements for 500 kids. And so I don't know how it happened, other than it did. What was the second question? But
no.
Okay.
Yeah. That's incredible. Then I didn't ask the second question.
Well, that's why I didn't know.
That's why you didn't know it, man. Like, that's not your fault.
Yeah.
I know how both our brains worked, and I knew I needed
to
hang on.
Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I needed to hang on to the question. We both forget it. So, no, you mentioned one of your board members is
chief of staff
for John Maxwell, and people that listen to the show are at all different stages of what they're doing, and some of them it's just pursuing a hobby so that they can stand going to work every day, and some of them it's creating, moving that hobby to a side hustle, to a business.
Yep.
And I imagine there's some people that are on a little bit more of a journey like you, where they're creating a nonprofit. At what point did you decide to bring on board members, and what did that process look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think whether it's a nonprofit, I've been a part of businesses and things like that in the past, and pretty entrepreneurial in that aspect. But there's this teeter totter, kind of like this podcast. This would be a perfect example, but it's like this with anything. There's a teeter totter that I felt in my life where it was almost like the risk of not doing it was robbing me of something.
Yep.
And so I think, at least for me, I didn't plan on starting a nonprofit. We're actually starting a second one now. I didn't plan on doing this, right? I knew I was supposed to preach. I walked away from the business side of things, and that was fine. I came to terms with that, and that was okay because my passions had changed, right? Not that I didn't want to still make money and stuff, but the passions had changed. And so I kind of, course corrected, and I became a pastor and did all that type of stuff. But when I walked away and I became a full-time evangelist, that means there's no salary.
Right.
And oh, by the way, I don't charge a fee. I get people ask me, how much do you charge? Pay for my travel and pray about it. Like, yeah. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to play that game. The people that do, I have nothing against them, but for me, I just don't feel like it's right. But what happened then, I go over there and now this burden gets put on me. Okay. In any business, right? If you're a successful person, what makes you successful in business? I see something that people need or want. I could do it better.
Right.
And so it's almost like this burden gets put on you. And what I would say is the more time that you get like wrapped up and you'd be daydreaming, oh man, I wonder if I could do this. Like I would catch myself even at my quote unquote dream job going, like Friday rolls around. Oh, it's the weekend.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, wait, this is my dream job that I'm building these amazing buildings. I get to do all that stuff. Sunday night would come around and I'd go, oh,
here we go.
And I'm sitting here going, for me, and for the audience, my dad got diagnosed with ALS. And I watched a man who went after the world. He was a good guy, but went after the world, tried to build things, do all this stuff. And yet he gets diagnosed with a disease. 6 months later, he dies. And I go, for what? What did you accomplish? And I think all too often we always quantify things in terms of money, right? It's always about money.
Yeah.
But I sit there, if there's someone listening, it's like, man, I have this idea for this business. You know what? Are you passionate about it? Does your heart get set on fire when you think about it? And for me, it almost is like that weights thing. And the teeter-totter started tipping. And I'm sitting here going, okay, so now I went over there. Now what? Well, then I got people reaching out to me. Well, we would like to be a part of this. We would like to support. This is a big deal. We don't know anyone that's doing this. And I'm sitting here going, I kind of stumbled into it. And so I would say the thing is, at some point you have to take a risk. There's a risk in everything. There's a risk to getting married.
Right.
Like there's a risk to having kids. But what I would always say, and my uncle said this to me one time about the kids. I said, what is it like having a kid? Like before I had my first kid, he said, the highs are really high and the lows are really low, but it is always worth it. So for me, it's like that in life. Marriage isn't always like easy, right? Sometimes it's hard, but it's in that struggle. And I'm telling you right now, everything is always worth it. And so if there's people listening that are sitting there going, man, I got this idea. Who cares if you fail? Like at the end of the day, you know what? If you look at my Instagram, you look at anyone else's social media, you're going to go, man, they have the best life. What? No, I don't post you. Like my wife, she started homeschooling our kids. I said, we are not homeschooling our kids. She's like, I really feel like we're supposed to try this out and do this. And I said, sure. People are like, I can't believe she does this. She has so much patience, all that stuff. And I said, well, you weren't there when she was screaming at the kids.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I don't post about that on social media.
Go, and you've talked to enough business leaders. We both know them. And I'm saying, I know some amazing people that people go, I wish I had their life. And then you realize they deal with the exact same stuff. And at the end of the day, I've preached on this before, and I call it the shouldas, the couldas, and the wouldas. Man, I should have done that.
Right.
I could have done that. Man, I wish I would have. I don't want to live a life of shouldas, couldas, and wouldas. And after watching my dad die at 50, whatever, 55, I don't remember how old he was, but young, watching him die with so many dreams unfulfilled. And then team that up with, I heard this thing where I think it was nurses did a study of people at the end of their life. And the two biggest regrets, the first one is I wish I would have spent more time with my family. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And the second one is I wish I would have taken more risks. Everyone plays it safe.
Yep.
So risk. So my biggest thing is, like, for anyone that's listening, when you talk about business, nonprofit, whatever, at some point, you got to take a risk. And you know what? I had a person call me, really big influencer person, like big. And hey, I got this big following, blah, blah. Should I quit college and just try to do this full time? And I go, yep. And he's like, well, no, like, And I said, buddy, do it. Well, I said, you can always go back to school.
Right.
You got millions of followers. Go ahead and just do this. Just try it out. Worst case scenario, you go back to school and, oh, by the way, everyone's on a 6-year plan anyways. So you miss a year or two, you're going to graduate with your buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but no one wants to take the leap. And I would say the one thing about the leap that I would say is, for me, everybody's like, man, you have so much faith. No, I don't. What I do, and I don't know if your personality is like this, I compartmentalize everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think of the repercussions of the thing. I just jump. So I jump, I get on the plane to Pakistan. I can't go back now. So I don't think about those things. I just do it. And now, sometimes I could probably get you in trouble, but I know that if my passion is pursuit of passion, if it's pushing me towards this thing, I'm going to jump that direction. And I just read a book, and then I'll shut up. You can,
dude, this is good stuff.
I'm a rambler.
I'll shut you up if you need to. You're doing great.
So I read this book. It's Eric Metaxas wrote a book on Martin Luther.
Okay.
Huge book. Like 900, I don't even know. It's huge. So I had to start listening to an Audible because he writes at a really high level. And I'm like, wait, what did I just read? It's one of those things where you're like, what was that paragraph?
Yeah.
So I started listening to it on Audible. And it's an amazing book. I learned a ton of stuff about Martin Luther, about the Reformation, all that stuff. But there's one thing in particular that I cannot shake. And it's a business principle. It's a life principle and all this type of stuff. Martin Luther, the Reformation has started, the 95 Thesis, you name it, right? Well, he's hiding in this castle, right? And so the Reformation is continuing on going. Well, during that time, all the people inside the Reformation are like, well, we don't want to mess up. We don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to do all of these different things. So they reach out to Martin Luther in this letter and they say, hey, we don't know, you need to come back. We need your guidance. We this thing, we don't know what to do. And Martin Luther's, I'm generalizing all this, but the response back was, don't be afraid to sin, move it forward. He wasn't telling them to sin. He was saying, go ahead and make some mistakes, but go forward.
Yeah.
And that thing just stuck out to me so bright. I mean, just so clear. I'm sitting here and everyone is, well, it's got to be perfect. If you look at my website's not that great. Move forward.
Yeah.
Nothing is figured out. We got a bunch of different things. I got a board. Move forward. And we can course correct. But stagnation, just like quicksand, will kill your dreams.
Yep.
Book plug, The Dream Giver. It's one of my favorite books. Everyone has a dream, but not everyone's going to pursue it.
Yep.
So just go forward.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, and it's interesting that you're talking about Martin Luther, the Reformation.
Yeah.
And as you're talking about that go forward, a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. pops into my head. It's
who was named after him, by the way.
Right. Exactly. And I'm not going to get it. I'm going to paraphrase, but it's run if you can run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. Whatever you need to do, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And
it's just forward. Everyone. Yeah. This world would be such a better place if the passions and the talents and people would be used and move forward.
Right.
Typically what it is, it's people, they got money, or they got this, or they got political influence. So move forward. And if everyone did that, this podcast, there's tons of people, you don't understand no one's going to see us around this table. Let's say this thing blows up and you got millions, you're Joe Rogan someday.
Right.
Well, yeah, but it started here.
Yeah.
No one sees that. They only see the now. But that's what it's like for everyone's life. Everyone has, most of it's not seen. I preached this sermon. I talked about, I have sown tears into this ministry that none of you will see. You only see the impact of what it's become. That's the same thing for a business.
Absolutely.
Sweat, tears, blood. And you're sitting there going, no one will ever see it. They only see the good stuff that would come from it. They don't see the failures. They don't see whatever. So what? Move forward.
Yeah.
Just go.
No, that's huge. And I think that can be scary for a lot of people. You said whatever you do, you have, take the risk, take the leap. And I think I would just piggyback off of that. Your leap doesn't have to be getting on a plane to Pakistan.
No.
But take that risk. And that first risk maybe shouldn't be quitting your job. Maybe that risk is saying, hey, I'm going to take 15 minutes that I usually do XYZ and start. Maybe it's just reading about the thing that I'm passionate about.
Start an Etsy shop.
Right? Exactly. Do something.
You don't have, what I don't want people to hear is nuke your career, do that. No. My personality is different. My journey is different than everyone else's. But that wasn't my first step of obedience. My first, there was tons of prior steps that were much, much smaller.
Right.
Incremental steps, right? Of moving a career path,
Yeah.
giving up drinking,
Yep.
right? No one knows that. I wouldn't, right? We have
Yep.
I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't have made that decision. And I remember sitting around this table, and I remember all of these guys, and it was like they're all older. I've always loved being in a room with people smarter than me.
Yeah, for
I just
sure.
want to listen, even at a young age. And I watched all of these men, business owners and whatever, right, go around the room and talk about how drinking, they wish they would have stopped at a younger age. And I'm sitting here going,
I'm at a younger age.
that's me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so no one understands. But without that step, I wouldn't have a marriage. Without that step, I 100% wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right. So when I say go, just get on a plane, what I'm saying is there's always a step.
Yes.
Start an Etsy shop, right? Like there's so many amazing things available to us right now with technology. Start a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, there's only 2 people. Okay. Okay, great.
Start with 2.
So start with 2, right? Like maybe those are the 2 that needs to hear the things that are on your heart. I don't know what it is, but small isn't bad. Small is necessary. It's never the big step out at the beginning. It never. You only see that because that's what people focus on.
Yeah.
But you don't see the pain and the struggle to that point. I had years and years and years of my life trying to climb a corporate ladder, not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Get to the dream. I've had years and years of years pursuing all of these different things, starting a marketing business that went really well, but it wasn't the right thing.
Yeah.
I've made plenty of mistakes, consulted for, there's been plenty of times where I'm sitting there going, what am I doing? And most of the time my wife's like, what are you doing? Like I built my own house, right? Like we sold our house and I'm like, let's build a house. She's like, you don't know how to build a house. I said, we can do it.
Yeah.
So I've always had that we could do it. Like I just
Right.
know it could happen. But once I get in that, I get super obsessed. That's my personality, which is like yours probably.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, we built this first house. Let's do a second one. And she's like, yeah, well, I almost didn't want to be married to you at the first house. So let's not do 2. But that's where my compulsive disorder and what I would caution people on in anything, it's easy to lose yourself.
Right.
When I got back from the first trip to Pakistan, I remember coming back and money's tight. We're sacrificing everything for this. And my wife went to go get something like some treats for the boys. And I said, how much are you going to spend? She looked at me. She goes, don't do this. Because I can say, well, no. Every single dollar needs to go to these people. And then I can lose my family in the process.
Right.
In the best pursuits that we have, we can still lose everything.
Yeah.
It's balance and accountability. Like you call, hey, do you need anything from me? You send me those texts.
Yeah.
I need people because at one of the times you're going to send, I'm like, dude, I'm hurting.
Yeah.
I need you.
Yeah.
Without accountability, with all that type of stuff, none of this even matters.
No, that's good. And I love that you brought that story up because and I don't know if you even remember this, but you told me that story like a week before I went to Haiti. Cause he's like, you're like, I know your personality, and
we're obsessive.
Well, yeah. And you need to watch this video that they did on me because I literally in the middle of it, I'm like, I'm a little cuckoo that way. I'm like, we can sell our house and then I can help everybody here, and it's like, no.
And your wife and kids are going, what?
Hey, we like our house.
Remember us?
Yeah, exactly.
Like so my wife going back, so I'm like, I'll sacrifice whatever. It doesn't even matter. And she looked at me one day and the go-to is always like, you know what? If enough money doesn't come in this month, we'll just sell the house. And so finally one day she just was like, here's the deal, bud. This is our home. I'll support you in she's amazing. I'll support you in everything, right? If I have a check, I'll tell you, but I will be your biggest fan in everything that you do. But do not throw our house in there because I want a home for our kids.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know that's the line.
Yes.
So that's the line I'm going to butt up against now.
Right.
It's like, we'll sell everything but the house. We don't have any furniture, right? But it's like, we need those people in our life because there's people that get obsessive, which is why I had a drinking problem, which is why right? But also that makes us fierce people in the business world.
Yep.
In nonprofit, because we start to get obsessed. But if we don't have a good board, if we don't have good accountability partners, if we don't have a good spouse, if you don't have friends in your life, they're like, hey, bud, you've lost 30 pounds. And you look really bad. Maybe you should slow down.
Right. Yeah.
That's what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. That is awesome stuff. And it was actually, you answered the next question I was going to ask, but I do want to circle back because how we started on that was your board.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if you don't mind.
How
about
I chose them?
How they came, either how they came in your life, how you decided they were right for the board. What did that process look like?
So what I would say, and I've had these conversations, the bigger this dream gets, the more I want to protect it.
Right.
And so what I would say, and it's in business, it's in everything. It's in the partners that you choose to run a race with in business or whatever, right? So try to apply these principles. You can basically apply them everywhere. But when I started sitting down, I realized, okay, I have a dream. I have a burden on my heart. I have a passion. Okay, what does that look like? So I don't have to figure out the end goal of it, but I need to know some actionable steps at the beginning, right?
Yep.
And I'm sitting here going, okay, and I had people, there are great people and well-intentioned people and organizations that reached out and that I potentially could have done stuff with. My fear though was this. Does it become their thing?
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with a shared vision, but God was really specific for me on this thing. And so really quickly, it can turn into something. And there's probably people listening now that if you've owned a business or whatever, you're like, this kind of just happened.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how this happened. And so what I was super intentional with in the beginning is I don't have yes men on the board.
Right.
On the contrary, they are much smarter than me. They really are. I want people that are smarter than me. I want people that have been through more things than I have, but I need them to have as similar of a heartbeat as I do.
That's good, Brandon.
And so our board will continue as resources grow. I will continue to expand it. Right. And so the first person, he's a CEO of you should have him on your podcast, actually.
I'll get I would like to.
CEO of a steel company, 4th generation steel company, done some huge projects. I mean, just amazing business person, all this type of stuff, but a very caring individual, huge heart, that type of thing. And so I was actually going to a church that during COVID, he was kind of having like a church out of the back of his house.
Yeah.
And all these people were back there. And the moment I met him, I was like, I literally looked down and I said, I just wanted this might seem a little weird, but if you'd be a mentor of mine, I would love it. Because I could see something on him.
Right.
I could see it. Like you meet these people and you go, there's something on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and people go, oh, it's because he's successful. It wasn't that. It was how he cared about his family. It was how he cared about it. Like, and I saw that. And so I was like, hey, and so he was the first board member.
Okay.
He believed in me. He was there. And the second one was another person that's there. He's a software executive.
Okay.
Brilliant, analytical, crazy. He's the guy that's like, hey, you should read this book. The next week, he'd be like, yeah, I read it. Extremely brilliant.
Yeah.
Has started his own trading platform, advised for the S&P 500. They were clients of his. Also does software. Like, he's a brilliant person. Has great family, like all that type of stuff. And I'm sitting here going, he understands stuff and he can see things that I can't see. Right. Well, he should be on the board too.
Yeah.
Now I asked someone else on the board, high level business guy, and he actually turned me down because he didn't have the time, which is totally fine.
Right.
And then Chad, who also should probably be on this podcast, randomly moves here from Atlanta, Georgia. Chief of staff, John Maxwell Companies, been there for 20 years, gets to rub shoulders with the who's who, has a heart of gold.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the thing about him that I love is that every time I'm in a room with him, he makes me feel like I could do anything.
That's awesome.
He's the guy
huge encourager.
These shoes, he just showed up at my house and was like, hey man, I just want to get you, man, you're doing such a great job. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm just so honored to run a race with you. And I'm sitting here going, well, that's the guy I need on the board too.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think for me, I want a diverse group of people. I don't want everyone to think the same thing.
Yeah.
But they need to, at the end of the day, and this is what I told the board, what we are called to do will not make any business sense. And I have a bunch of business people in this room. So at the end of the day, ROI, just like what you're doing with your nonprofit.
Yeah.
How do you quantify ROI on something that's intangible?
Right.
No, I can add up lives saved,
right,
meals and stuff. But much of what we do, you can't necessarily calculate on a return on investment.
Right. Yep.
We spend dollars and don't really generate too much of a return.
Correct.
So I told them, I said, we are going to step out in faith and do things that do not make sense from a business acumen. But this will be the heartbeat. The heartbeat is this. The foundation of our ministry now, so our cause, right, is the slavery, right?
Yeah.
The foundation of our ministry is this. How do we create the most fertile ground for people to invest in?
Amen.
So fertile ground, I don't always see what comes from it, but I know that things behind it, the inputs into that fertile ground, are necessary.
Yeah.
So we will go after people that nobody wants. We are serving the least of these to get people to the crusades. So they're not allowed. So they're Christians, obviously, but in the law, they're allowed to go worship. Well, but if you don't have a place or how to get there, right, you can't go worship. So
Right.
they work 7 days a week. But if I buy bus or rent buses, 163, for example, on the last crusade, and start busing them in, they have to go. Or they're allowed to go. Does it make sense for me to rent buses to get them there? Probably not. Is it necessary? I would argue yes.
Yeah.
So those are the conversations that we had, and my board is not a yes man board. So do not go into business with people that are yeah, whatever you want. Don't do that. They have the same heartbeat, but they're like, what if we did this? What? And I'm sitting there going, well, that's pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
those are the people that I want to surround myself with. And honestly, challenge me.
Yeah.
Everyone, you have this same thing in my life. If you see something in me, it doesn't mean you're right, but if you see something in me and you're like, man, I see a lot of pride in this area.
Yeah.
Call it out.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Those are the people that I want to be around.
That's huge. No, that's really good. Because I think that, again, that's a piece that not a lot of people get to that point with their passion, because on the more traditional business side of thing, a board of directors is a lot further down the road.
Yeah.
But with a nonprofit, it really should be pretty early on. And I love that's your approach.
Yeah.
It's similar to the way that Tim handled,
Yeah.
Tim and the board work. It's, I would say at this point, because he's a decade ahead of you. They're more about protecting him,
Correct,
and making sure that he's protecting him. So he's not doing too much, but also more guide rails than necessarily driving.
And that's, I'll get texts and like, hey, love your heart. Are you sure you should? This is a lot.
Yeah.
And I go, no, thanks. And so that's what they're there for,
Yeah.
because they can see things and hear, they can feel things that I don't.
Yeah.
Because again, you get down into the mission and you look up and you're in the middle of nowhere. That's what I don't want.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. Brandon, what's the biggest success that, and again, you just said things aren't aren't as quantifiable, but what's the biggest success you've had, or what are you most proud of? And I mean proud in a good way, not prideful.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you didn't ask me these questions beforehand, because then I'd like have all these things.
Right.
But man, there's tons of stuff that I'm proud of. Right. I mean, honestly, for me, I was so selfish my whole life. Right. I'm proud that I made those decisions to kind of step away from that type of stuff. But honestly, like, what I've learned recently is my wife, without her, none of this works.
Yep.
Like, none of it. And I think all too often we can get so like caught up in what we're doing, we lose sight of all these other things that kind of hold everything together. And man,
That's good.
Honestly, I'm proud of her. Like, she is one of the strongest, most amazing people. And I know people probably say this about their wives, but literally I've seen it now as I've stepped out in faith.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably get this too.
Yeah.
You're sitting there going, oh, she's my biggest supporter.
100%.
And it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I look at her as one of those things that's like, man, without her in my life, I wonder where I would have been, type of thing.
Sure.
She is such an amazing mother, and all of these things that, like, I'm a good father, but if you said who's the better parent, it's 100% her, right? She just loves them unconditionally. And it's not that I don't, but she's just, so honestly, I'm just so proud of that. But I'm also, man, people don't understand that, and I alluded to it with like my father. Like, we moved him into our house.
Yeah.
6 months. He had really bad dementia with his ALS and all this type of stuff. It was horrible. She did it with me.
Right.
And so I think far too often, if you talk about business, you talk about whatever, a lot of times you'll see the front person,
Mm-hmm.
but all too often the spouse kind of falls to the wayside. And so I've realized lately, without her, I wouldn't be doing any of this. So, hey, behind every great man is a great, no, that's like actually a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so honestly, I'm proud of our marriage, where we've come from, where we're at now, but I'm super excited for what's to come. In terms of like projects and things like that, honestly, the greatest joy so far of my life is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
If I died today, I would have accomplished more in what I'm doing now than I ever thought was possible. And we're just getting started, right? And so like, I don't want to always live in the past, but what I've realized is, I was preaching. I said this. I was talking in front of this church, and I think all too often we lose sight of there's thousands of little miracles everywhere.
Yep.
And I've really started to appreciate my life and look at it and go, and especially when you start traveling overseas,
Right.
I am blessed.
So blessed.
Blessed. Like,
Yeah.
if I got nothing else from today forward, I would still be more blessed than I deserve. Right.
Mhm.
And so I think for me, it's hard to think about the stuff that I've done, but it's like the cumulative work of this journey.
Yeah.
And I am proud of myself for doing these things, but it's because of the people that are around me. Right. And so I would say if I had to pick like a project, whatever, it would be what I'm doing now. And it's not really a project, right? It's what I'm called to do.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't proud of that, probably shouldn't be at the table.
Yeah.
Right.
Need a little U-turn.
But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you feel the same way? I mean, that's the older I get, I realize I have a lot of gifts that I've been given, talents,
Mm-hmm.
but man, I would suck without these people in my life.
Right.
Friends. Like I used to be the guy that's like, I want to know everybody. And it's like a mile wide and inch deep. And I've realized it's not that I don't want to know everybody still, because I still have a lot of, friends and things and people I talk to, but I want depth of relationship now.
Yes.
I want to be able to like cry with someone and be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
And then those people go, you got this.
Yeah.
Those are the relationships that I want. And I'm proud of, like, those are the things that I'm proud of now, because again, you can't add that up in my bank statement.
Correct.
But I would argue my board, my wife, the friendships that I have, I am rich beyond belief.
Yep.
And there's nothing that I can't do with these people around me.
That's great, man. That's so good. And you used an analogy that we talk about a lot, and I'm guessing you probably, if you don't already, will with your ministry as well. But like one way that Many Hands is different than a lot of the other, faith-based nonprofits out there is we're focused on going an inch wide and a mile deep instead of a mile wide and an inch deep, which we need that in some areas. But like, that's one place where Tim was like, hey, we need to drill down and build the relationships, and that's how we're going to transform lives.
Yes.
We need people out there just spreading the gospel everywhere, but we also need to look at this from a different angle and go, if we're actually going to make generational change, which is something I've heard you say as well, then you've got to drill deep. You can't just go and spreading the gospel is 100% needed, but you got to go and free slaves. You got to go and feed people. They
starve. Good luck.
Right. Exactly. You got to teach them how to feed themselves too.
And my personality is, so our team over there was like, we could do this in Afghanistan. We could go to China. And I was like, and I started going, we could.
Yeah.
And then I had somebody come close to me and they go, all right, buddy, like, how many people are in Pakistan again? A good business leader, a friend of mine from Atlanta. And I was like, well, there's 4.5 million. And he's like, that seems like a lot. It's a lot of work, huh? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, there's a lot of work for you to do there, huh? And I was like, oh yeah.
I see where you're going now.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
And that's even like us starting to take these impact trips to Abaco, where I'm going, soon. It would be really easy to just immediately go, hey, all the stuff we're doing in Haiti, boom, let's do it here. And it's going to be easier because we got the government on our side. The model is proven, but also we've got the government on our side, where Haiti, it's just been an uphill battle with the government the whole time. And I think that's going to be the challenge for us too, is not to go this. It's like, no, let's start with these two, do them really well, and then we'll start adding on the other programs.
100%.
Yeah,
that's good.
So great stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of flip that question around. What's been the biggest setback or struggle that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Man, I should have prepared more, huh? Honestly, for me, I with my personality, what I would say probably just off the top of my head is I really easily believe like in myself, right? Like that's a good thing, but it's like I can make whatever I'm thinking at that moment the thing that I'm supposed to do, right?
Oh, sure.
I naturally just trust everyone. Like
feel that
they punched me in the face. Well, they didn't mean to punch me in the face. Like, that type of, and so I really genuinely do that. And so what I would say, for me is, and it's hard because it's like, and you've heard this, every setback, I set you up, right? And, I've learned I wouldn't change my past, and I honestly probably really wouldn't. But as I think about it, if I could make some strategic changes, My personality, and probably yours, is such that I will get so focused on a thing and think it's the thing. And then I go, how many years of my life did I spend on pursuing this that I probably shouldn't have?
Sure.
And so for me, there's probably not one in particular that pops out, but it's probably more of a mindset that I have
Hmm.
where the another good thing, it's like, man, hopefully my wife listens to this because I don't usually compliment her this much, but
Yeah, I'll make sure she
yeah,
gets a
yeah, yeah.
copy.
But the one thing that I would say is, had gotten asked to go on a few trips this last year, and I was so focused on what we're doing,
Hmm.
like extremely focused. And hey, here's Brazil, here's Uganda, a trip to Great Britain, all this stuff, and it's all great, right? And I went upstairs, and there's this one Watoto, right, in
Yeah.
Uganda, and this person reached out, and I said, "Do you think I could preach there?" And they're like, "Maybe." I mean, I've loved their organization.
Yeah.
I love what they stand for, and I was like, that would be amazing, right? So I remember going upstairs and talking to my wife from my office, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about this trip?" And she goes, "Is that you or God?" Because
Oh.
and I go, honestly, that's probably me right now.
Yeah.
Not saying that I won't ever go to Uganda or, I go to Brazil, obviously, but like adding new things, right? And so for me, the cautionary tale of my life is I so easily believe that I can do whatever comes in that I do sometimes whatever comes in.
Sure.
And so in this last few seasons, what I've learned I have to do in my life is really create room for capacity,
Hmm.
because really easily I say yes to pretty much everything. It's just another opportunity. And and at the end of the day, I go, but I didn't even really focus on what I was supposed to focus on, you know, in this season.
Yep.
And so my biggest regret is that I probably didn't see that sooner in my life. And I still sometimes miss it, which is why I like that I have her. Honestly, personally, probably one thing that I wish I could take back. When my father was living with us, I mean, it was hell on earth. It was horrible,
Yeah.
right? I know you know a lot of the story, and it's just I, I loved him. I sacrificed everything to take care of him.
Hmm.
He was telling lies to his family. We weren't feeding. I mean, you name it. It was like a Maury Povich show, right? It was like I should have been on Jerry Springer. Like,
Right.
what else could go wrong?
Yeah.
And honestly, at the end of things, when it was just getting horrible, and I'm just like, what am I doing? I almost kicked him out of our house. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, I look back and I hear some of the conversations that my wife had with him, and he was like, why doesn't Brandon like me anymore, or whatever? And I regret probably how I interacted with him a little bit.
Hmm.
I wasn't mean to him, but I was just like, I was over it, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until after everything was done that if I didn't fight for him, no one would have.
Right.
But while the fight was going on, I was just so angry because I don't want this.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do this.
Hmm.
And so I think for me, that's probably one of the bigger. Now it all ended up great, right? And gave his life to the Lord, and everything ended up great. But there was a season where it was just like running uphill with the wind to your face, and I let the stress of that situation
Pull you down.
get the best of me.
Yeah.
Didn't give my wife the best. Didn't give my kids the best. But that situation also did train me. When I go through things now, I'm good. So it's like you live with someone like that for that long and have to deal with that. It's probably going to get the best of anybody.
Yeah.
And so I'm not dogging on myself, but knowing what I know now, I probably would have played out a few things different and been willing to give a lot more grace. Dad, you spilled all your pills all over, and I've got 3 little kids that are in the house crawling, in diapers. Didn't you think that? Okay, that was the dementia.
Right.
But it's just you get so wrapped up, and this is what happens in everyone's life.
Yeah.
Personal stuff happens, and I think what I'm learning is to extend grace a lot more graciously,
Right.
than I probably did before.
Yeah. Well, and you had that's a huge deal, right? Like as I'm listening to you tell that story, it's like how many times throughout the day am I short with somebody
Yeah.
because somebody else was just a jerk to me,
Yeah.
or I'm stressed out because my list of things to do is way bigger than I would like it to be. I mean, how many times is my extension of grace either 0 or way shorter than it should be? And that's not my dad dying in my house. Like
Yeah.
that's just life. And
Yeah.
I think that's, I hear you say that, and that's where my brain immediately goes. Like,
Yeah.
hey, that's every day. It's not just with the big
Flipping
things.
somebody the blessed finger when you're
Yeah,
driving.
exactly. I haven't done that in a really long time, actually. Remind me, I gotta when we're off.
Roll
the air,
down
I
the
gotta-
windows.
Right.
I wanted to extend some grace to you.
Yes, grace upon you.
Yeah.
And yes. All right. Yeah, that's good stuff. No, I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
that, like I said, that one speaks directly to me for sure. We touched on this a little bit, but I want to ask the question anyway. What would you say to someone who is struggling to find their passion, or maybe they found it and they're at a spot where they're struggling to move it ahead? And you can pick one or both of those.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because I don't we're all created so differently, right?
Right.
And so I remember, we were talking about my brother-in-law before, right? And I remember one time I asked him, "What are your dreams?" And he's like, "What?" I was like, what are your dreams?" And he said afterwards, he was like, "Why don't I have any dreams? Why?" Like, it's so I think for our personality, like, we're dreamers, right?
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
pretty easily I can get a list of things that, like, is this my passion?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I'm not good at anything, or I'm super quiet, or I'm whatever. But we all have passions.
Mhm.
And so it's like, okay, like the fundamental level, what do you spend most, like, I love reading books, or, okay, well, there might be something there, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's like, I think the world has done a disservice. I mean, it's not like it's the world's fault, but social media consumes all of us. And it's always this really, really big thing,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. And so when we assume, what's my passion? Well, it has to turn into this big thing that, right? There are millions of people right now pursuing their passion that none of you will ever see or know the story.
Bingo.
And so I'm sitting here going, there's always something for all of us to do. And it's okay that it's small. Like, it's okay that it's small.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times we probably don't understand that we have passions. We just don't think they're maybe big enough or great enough to pursue.
Yep.
And so I think that's the piece. But then, to go down that road, like I said at the beginning, at some point there is going to be some risk.
Yep.
And honestly, if it wasn't for my dad, it wasn't for a couple of those situations, I probably wouldn't be here. Again, that's why I'm not necessarily wishing it would all change. But at some point, everyone has to come to terms, and I was faced with it sooner rather than later because it was staring me directly in the eye of the death, right? We get one shot. There's one shot at this life.
Yep.
And you know what? I determined to myself, because I'm a finance guy.
Yeah.
I know how much money I walked away from. I know all that stuff. What I determined in my own head and in my own life is, am I willing to sacrifice all of the stuff that could be for a guaranteed thing here that provides me no joy? And at some point, everyone, once you find the passion, it'll escalate usually, and it starts taking up more of your time, and it could be serving other people. There's a ton of different things.
Right.
Starting a business, whatever it is, right? Being a mom, like, whatever it is. My wife, if you said, she wants to be a mom.
Yep.
That's her thing right now. And she does awesome, right? So, but at some point in everyone's life, are you willing to take a step? It's like what's Indiana Jones with the bridge?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
And at some point, and what I hopefully, the one thing I want people to hear in this is, I'm not saying like we all have to do, like, I'm not saying that. We're not, you got to be big, you got to make yourself on the news. No. At some point, whatever it is in your life, are you willing to risk, to step out? And I was not willing to, like, the rat race and go through the motions. I was over it. Like, I was just over it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and people are like, well, what if you fail? What if every single company that you work at, you are a number. It is what it is. I'm not saying anything. I'm not dogging on companies. Right? It is what it is. And we think, well, we're protected. We're this. I graduated right before 2008.
Mm-hmm.
I remember what the recession was like when people were getting fired nonstop. And I was thinking, they worked here their whole lives and
now they don't have
gone.
a job. Yeah.
And some of those people, probably it's a good thing.
Right.
So go pursue your passion. Like, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing where I'm sitting here. I am not willing. I've seen it in you too. You sitting there going, well, this doesn't bring me a lot of joy.
Right.
The other big thing is that I would say to people is, what's your legacy?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing this for my legacy's sake, right? But I sat there and I looked at my father. When you die and a year goes by, what did you leave us?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying our life should be that, right? So we should somehow be like the pharaohs, be honored with pyramids and, whatever. But all too often, and I've talked about this before, I talked about how a lot of times the faith and the things that we do, it creates a headstone.
Sure.
Look, everyone can see it. Well, headstones are dead.
Yeah.
It's historical.
Mm-hmm.
What am I creating that leads into the future? I can tell you right now, my
Yeah.
kids are an extension of my legacy.
Right.
Like, and I guess for me, I'm sure you've heard this. It's like people underestimate what they can do, or overestimate what they can do in a couple months.
Yeah.
But underestimate what they can do like in a couple years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, what would that look like in my life? But also my kids' life.
Right.
My grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've started to think a little bit longer. And so I know that's probably a long way to answer that question.
No, it's great.
Everyone listening has a passion. Everyone listening, even if you don't think it, you have a talent. You have things that the world needs. Yep. You might have been told by a boyfriend, girlfriend, parents, whatever, that you don't. You do. That's the whole thing. You do.
Yeah.
So find out what it is, because you have it.
Yep.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have something inside of you that's amazing. Find out what that is, and then start walking down that path. And maybe it takes 30 years, 40 years, 50. Maybe it takes a day. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but then just start risking. And don't risk everything all at once, but start making incremental steps that pushes you towards whatever that is. You know what? You're sitting there going, somebody's like, oh, I just deliver the mail. Be the best flipping mail. Everybody gets a tip of my hat.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning.
I have him, by the way. Yeah, I have the best.
And what does it do to your day?
Every time I see him, I'm smiling. You know?
If everyone did that, find your lane. You know what? I just got my truck back from an auto repair shop. They did a phenomenal job. They're the best I've ever seen. So do that.
Right.
Whatever we do it to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
And if everybody did that, there's people that should be teachers that aren't.
Right.
Our kids needed you.
Yeah.
So go back to school and be a teacher.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's good. That's good. There's been a lot of good stuff in this episode, but if you are listening, I think you should just rewind like 2 or 3 minutes and go ahead and listen to that part again. Because that's really that's one of my golden nuggets for sure. We'll be talking about that one again. So we do have to think about landing the plane here in the next few minutes.
We can refuel in the air.
We could. Yeah, you and I could talk forever. There's 2 questions that I want to ask that I mean, actually I have like 4 more, but I have 2 that I'm like, I have to ask these 2. Yeah. So the first one I'm going to go with, cause I'm really interested in, and now I'm building it up too much, but tell me about your dreams as a kid, or what did 7 or 10-year-old Brandon McNace want to be? And I'm hoping it's like, rodeo clown or something like that.
Well, first of all, let's set the stage a little bit. He was a Ninja Turtle whitey tighty underwear.
Yes.
He had tools strapped to his underwear. Like probably not at like 7 or 8 or 9. I mean, you're 14 and had,
Yeah.
I had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. Honestly, so if I look back and I think about like through like high school, like in those, when you're trying to say like, what would I want to be? Honestly.
Now go younger.
Okay. So middle school, I started reading Robert Kiyosaki books in middle school.
Did you really?
Yeah. Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
Like, shout out to my uncle.
Yeah.
He was just an amazing person in my life. And so I wanted to do real estate, right? The other kind of thing that I kind of kick myself sometimes, but I always thought I would be the best flipping history teacher.
Sure.
Yeah. I love history, and I would just be that crazy guy that's like, man, I learned about this because I can't forget it because he was screaming, whatever, right? And so, but like if I go back, I'd always wanted to do real estate.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to build things, right, and create things and all that type of stuff. And so from a very middle school on up, that's why when I walked away from that, people don't. That maybe
it's
gives
an
a
even
little bit
bigger
more breadth.
deal. Yeah.
I was praying and I felt like God said, this is your dream for your life, but this isn't my dream for you.
Wow. That's huge.
The following day, a mentor of mine at work said, hey man, I was just praying last night. You're like, we love you here. Like this is, but I just was feeling like maybe this is like your dream for your life, but this isn't God's dream for you the next day.
Yeah.
And so I'd always want to do real estate. I still love it. I love walking through spaces. I just love all of that. That's why I built my own house. I love woodworking. But it's really creating.
Yep.
Creating something out of nothing and seeing it take form.
Yep.
Well, that's just applied to something else now.
Bingo.
But yeah, so Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that was me in middle school.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So what is one, or, what's a dream or a goal that you haven't reached yet?
How many minutes do we have?
You got like 2 or 3 minutes.
I think so. Shout out to Chad, one of my board members, but he's, the John Maxwell thing, they're really big on goals, right?
Yeah.
They're really big on setting. And so for him, like journaling, all that, those are the positive influences that he's had on my life.
Sure.
Right. I've always been an encourager, but setting better, being better at that. Right.
Yep.
All these things. But one of them is goals and like, and so we went on this men's retreat together and it talks about like, what's next year look like. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so my problem is I always set goals like I'm going to conquer the world out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I get there? I don't know. So I give up.
Right.
So I think for me,
oh, weird. I've never done that.
Yeah. And sometimes though, so what I've learned is to probably set a little bit shorter goals.
Yeah.
And so like this year, so I got a social media for a while and I was like, God, like what are the goals for this year? And so for this year, I start, so I formed the nonprofit in April of last year, 2022. And I thought, man, how many people could we save? It's $250 to buy a person.
Yeah.
And then $50 to pay for them.
Right.
We house them and feed them for 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's $300 a person. Okay. I have nothing formed. And I go, if we could do 100 people.
That'd be amazing.
In 8 months, 100 people, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we did 303. And so I'm sitting here going, okay, well, what does that look like now?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, I can't say 300 now. So 1,000. So the goal is 1,000.
Sure.
So this year, 1,000 slaves set free. It's roughly $300,000.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Finish the school. That's going to be $70,000 or $80,000 to finish this school to teach this amount of kids. Blah, blah. And so my goals now are probably more centered around the nonprofit. But what I would also say in conjunction with that personally is creating time for my family.
Yes.
So we started a couple years ago taking a spring break trip. It sounds like it was like, well, we do always that. Well, I didn't grow up doing that.
Same.
And so I was like, but our kids remember that. But I think for me, the hardest part the goals that I think that are really important to me that I sometimes fail to see because they're right in front of me. All of my kids are so different. And so they need pushed in different areas. Right. And so we were on our spring break trip and I don't know, I'm going to share this little story, but we were on the spring break trip and my oldest is just like me. He will talk to every single person. So we're walking through like the Smoky Mountains. He's like, hey, have you played Zelda? Like, and he's just literally walking up to every single person. Right. And at one point I was just like, hey, bud, you can't, like, you're ruining other people's vacations. Like they came here with their family to do whatever. And he kind of like looked at me like, like, oh, but I didn't think anything of it.
Sure.
Well, anyways, I was praying. It was a few weeks later probably. And I felt like God spoke this to me. What are you doing? And it took me back to that scene. And I was like sitting there, I was like, okay, what am I supposed to see here? Like what? And this is what I felt like he was telling me. I gave him the same gifts that I gave you. Why aren't you nurturing them?
Yeah.
Like I'm basically saying, hey, by the way, the gifts that you've been given, and this is what the world does to everybody. The gifts that you've been given, I don't have time for them right now.
Right.
So what do I do with my kids? What about my wife? And so for me, I'm trying to figure that piece out.
Yeah.
And I'm new to all of that. Right. And so biggest goal organizationally is 100%. I have some big goals there.
Yeah.
Right. To do some really big things. 4.5 million people.
Right.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Free. But then back up. How do I take my family on a journey like this and not lose them and see them step into, because you know what? I don't want to create an organization and then go, well, one of my kids better take over. Nope. What are you called to do?
Right.
That should be one of the highest goals of my life is to see my son step into what they're called to be. The same reason we're talking, hey, everyone, I should be doing that for my family. And all too often, especially in my role, my wife would be like, you're always pouring into everyone else. You're always whatever. And she'll call me out on it. You believe in everyone else. You do all this. She's like, what? Remember us. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Right.
Which is so sad to say, but if we're being honest.
I think it happens in ministry all the time, that and not on purpose, it's just, you are pouring into so many other people. So no, that's good, man. Brandon, it's been awesome to chat with you. Your passion is, you just exude it, and obviously you give credit to God for that. And I think that's not, I know that's why you're going to be continuing. You're going to continue to be met with success as long as you let him lead you. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time today. Hey, if people want to get in touch with you,
Yeah.
is exodus51.org, is that the best way?
Yeah,
Okay.
just go to exodus51.org, and it's 51, not 51 spelled out.
Oh, sorry. Yes, 5-1.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
But
Exodus 51. Yeah.
But it is Exodus 5-1, right? Not
Yeah.
51.
Yeah, it technically, yeah.
Okay,
from
sorry.
the
We're
Bible.
going to confuse people now.
So exodus51.org.
Yes.
And then eventually we're going to have 2 websites, but that's going to be where this lands. And then inside of that, you'll see like our foundation. So you can kind of see what we're doing. Our social media, my social media has probably more of the stories of what we're doing. But
and where do they find you on social?
So if you just go to the website on top,
you'll have
it's
links there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just click on there and you can see kind of the videos and stuff. But message me. Like, I don't have a team. I literally have my office in my basement. So it's like, people are like, is this really you? It's like, no, it's really me. It's like, I get messaged by people. I just talked to somebody in Canada and like, just, hey, tell me more about this story and stuff. And I love having those conversations. And so reach out, if you have questions,
rock and roll. All right. Everybody, I hope this has been as enjoyable for you as it has for me. Take the stuff that Brandon suggested and figure out where it applies for you. I'm proud of what you're working on, and I'd love to hear from you about the projects that you're out there pursuing. So have an awesome day, and we'll talk again soon.
If you have questions or would like to contact us, please check out the show details for contact information. Thanks for listening to the Pursue Your Passion podcast.